Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Raw Law Unfiltered with your host, the DUI Guy Plus. Sorry that I have not streamed in a hot minute. I've been playing catch up, working. Some of you who follow me on a regular basis, or I should say a more than regular basis, know that actually I just got back from Los Angeles and went back home and then went back to Los Angeles and then went to Las Vegas and then finally came back home literally on Sunday. So I've only been home not even a full week yet. Um, so life has been very, very busy, and I apologize for the delay. I know I said that I was going to stream on like Monday or something. It just never came to fruition because some of you, again, who are regular viewers, probably know I had a jury trial that was originally supposed to go today. Yeah, I was supposed to be in trial all day today in Madison County, Kentucky. Now, another thing that never actually came into fruition because apparently there's a water line that broke at the courthouse. I don't know. Don't ask me. My associate reported it back. That's the same county, by the way. Those of you who are familiar with my work, that is the exact same county where that police officer admitted to committing a felony. If you have not seen that video, by God, go check it out. Over the last 2 weeks, some of you may have noticed my whole channel is getting a makeover. I'm getting like fresh new thumbnails for all of my old courtroom videos, my cross examination videos. Shout out to my thumbnail maker. He's been working literally around the clock trying to polish as many of them as he can. And he's been delivering with absolute beauty. I mean, I also, some of you may have noticed we have shorts on the channel now. And no, I'm not talking about the kind that you wear, or if you're British, no, I'm not talking about underwear. Or is that pants? No, that's pants. What, baby? You just ate. You want to say hi to the audience? Okay, all right. Let me go introduce Zinnia to everybody. Come here, Zinni. She yelled at me from the other room. She's like, what about me, Bish? Right, Zinni? She just wants to say hello. She's like, I want to say hello and introduce myself. Hi, my name is Zinnia. I am a American tabby with a bit of Asian, and I don't know. You'll have to see her test results um from my Twitter page. I posted her genealogy as well as my own, so we both know what we're made of. She doesn't have any Russian blue. That's unfortunate. I was hoping my cat would be at least 1% Russian, but she doesn't. But she's got some Asian, so um she's so pretty. She woke me up the other day. There was some commotion going on in the hallway, and she was like, "Daddy, daddy, daddy." And she was just like pawing me in the face like this, like, "You gotta get up, you gotta get up, daddy. Daddy, something's happening out there." Literally, like with her paws just going like this, up and down on my face. Like I've never seen anything so wild before in my life. Like no joke. She's an amazing cat. Absolutely amazing cat. Um I think she just wanted to I think she just wanted to say hello to you all. Honestly. Right, Zinni? I wish I could I need like a Zinni cam or something. I don't know. Right, Zinni? All right, she wants to chill on my lap. She's a lap cat. Like she's also a very hairy cat. She's straight up a lap cat. Like she's sitting on my lap right now. And she'll come up and she'll look at me and she'll be like, "Can I come up?" And I'll be like, "All right, come on." And I'll like tap on my leg, give it 5 seconds flat, boom, she's on my lap. And then she just lay down or ask for pets or ask for love. She's just unbelievable. Absolutely amazing cat. Um anyway, sorry. got distracted. She really wanted the attention. Now she's got it. Now she's gonna be happy. I'm telling you, cats are very intelligent, and they will talk to you. Those of you who don't think that your cat understands what you're saying, and if you listen very closely, you can sometimes understand what they're saying. Like I'll talk to her, I'll ask her something, and her meows will give it away as to what she's saying. Like I'll ask something that I know the answer is no, and I'll be like, "Are you gonna do this?" And she's like, it sounds like a no, right? And then I'll ask her something else, like, "Are you hungry?" And she'll be like, "Meow." Like it sounds like a yeah. If you pay attention to the nuances in the meowing, I know I probably sound like a madman to some of you, but those of you who are cat owners, you know I'm not lying. Those of you who are raised around cats and have raised cats, you know it's the truth. You know it's real. If you pay, but you have to pay attention. And you have to know like your cat's nuances. You can't just find a random stray cat and they're just going to start talking to you. Like that's not how it works. But if you pay attention, you will definitely see it. Um, where the hell was I? Oh yeah, my trip. So trip got back, jury trial. So I was supposed to have a jury trial literally today in Madison County, the same place where I was supposed to have where I did have a jury trial that ended in a mistrial because the prosecution moved for mistrial wrongfully so on the police officer that admitted to committing a felony. And if you haven't checked that out, I was starting to say, go check out that video. Absolutely. I'm getting a makeover. So that bleeds into that whole thing. Makeover, the whole YouTube channel is getting a makeover, brand new thumbs, brand new everything. I'm trying to get content, like trial content, but as you can see, so the water main burst or whatever, and there's like a broken pipeline. So that trial didn't go. That trial was supposed to go today, literally today. So that didn't happen. Then my next jury trial was supposed to be Tuesday, and the prosecution, excuse me, the prosecution reached out to us yesterday and graciously made an offer that I think is reasonable. And we got the DUI dismissed. I think it was a good case to try for the defense. It was a okay case for the prosecution, but not a great one. And the burden is always on them. You know, they have to prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt. And when your case is not the best, not the strongest, that's already a problem. Like you want to at least have in your mind, because sometimes prosecution will look at a case, the defense will look at a case, and each side will be like, oh my God, this case is amazing. This case is so easy. Those are the ones that usually go to trial because or if one side is like, look, I don't care. Sometimes prosecutors are very unethical. Not this one that I'm talking about, but some of them are. They're like, I don't give a shit. I'm going to make you work. I'm going to, even if I have 0% chance of winning, who knows? You never know. I might. And unfortunately, they're right. And that's depressing and disgusting because you would think the justice system is built around justice. By the way, this bleeds into our discussion of Bryan very, very neatly. But we will get to that in just a moment. And of course, I'm talking about Bryan Kohberger, for those of you wondering. So he is on our list. He's our main topic for the day. But I just have a few more line items that we need to catch up on. So jury trial today obviously did not go. That's why I'm here. Jury trial on Tuesday settled, so that's not going to go. My next one was supposed to be, I believe, on like the 24th or the 25th of January. Both of those got either moved or one of them, I think the client couldn't afford going to trial. So that one is off my calendar. I was convinced I had a trial that week, or actually even two, and both of them are now off my calendar. So that's not happening. So my next jury trial, like this is unbelievable. Like I was staring at 4 trials in January going, how the hell am I going to manage? And now January is free and clear of all jury trials once again. Welcome, Cynthia CM. Thank you for joining on as a member. Don't forget to like this video, comment below, subscribe to the channel. If you like this content, much more stuff coming your way. So yeah, it's I don't know. I was really like I'm itching for a trial. I haven't had a jury trial. When was my last jury trial? Hold on. Let me go in my calendar. I know it's like September 16th, I want to say. No, September 14th. I have not had a trial since September 14th. October, November, December, January, 4 fucking months. And mind you, it's not like I didn't have any cases scheduled. I had about 21. No, hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 plus 17. I had 21 cases scheduled between like August 31st and today, or like the end of January. 2 went so far. 2 out of 21. We're batting 2 out of 21. That's less than 10% of cases actually scheduled. It is disgusting. Part of it's COVID, part of it is our reputation, part of it is clients not being able to afford us, which is, again, also only a couple of them. The remaining either got continued or settled. So I am literally like I'm gnashing at my teeth waiting for my next trial because I'm bored, you guys. Like in my skull, I feed on this adrenaline. This is why I'm going to go snowboarding this weekend. It feeds me this adrenaline of action, of doing things. That's why going to LA was so much fun for me because I got so much done. Somebody said recently, I think it was actually Beautifully Damaged. By the way, welcome back. I know she's probably not in the chat right now. I didn't see her, but welcome back, Beautifully Damaged. She was MIA for a short period. She's good now, though. She was like, in Kentucky, she said it very well. She thought she was insulting me, but she really wasn't. She said, you in Kentucky, you are a big fish in a small pond, whereas in LA, you feel like a big fish in a big ocean. And that is kind of right on the money. It's right on the nose. Because I mean, Kentucky only has so much to offer long term. I'm not talking about like at this very moment, but if you think 5, 10, 15, 20 years in the future, I mean, you only have so much that you can accomplish in Louisville. Just because of its size. It's nothing. I love this city. I probably will remain here for the foreseeable future. Maybe someday I will move. I don't know. But in at this juncture for the next like few years for sure, I have no reason to move. Everything is keeping me here, my business, my livelihood, my YouTube channel, my work, my trials, my clients, my associates. Tyler, by the way, he started on Monday, so he's doing really, really well. I'm very, very excited. I'm very, very excited for all of us and him, and it's going to be good times. It's going to be good times. So my next jury trial is going to be February 10th, I believe. So another month that I have to wait. I'm sure like prosecutors don't like hearing a defense attorney say like, I can't wait for my next jury trial. But hey, it's the truth. It's the truth. I literally, and this next one I think is a very, very, very good case for the defense. And I'm not just saying that. In case you are watching, Ms. Prosecutor or Mr. Prosecutor, whoever is going to be trying this case, I'm not saying that just to scare you or anything crazy like that. Believe you me, I think it is a very, very, very shit case for the prosecution. Welcome, Star Baker, as a member to the channel. Thank you for joining. Memberships are like 99 cents a month, so if you can afford it, I know not everybody can. Please join on. It helps the channel. It helps us get emojis. It helps you get more emojis. So Kristen Grogan asks, what got me into DUI law? I actually have a video on my channel exactly about that, about how I got into DUI law. And I think it's from like 2019 or 2020. You're going to have to do some digging. So I can't guarantee that you'll find it. So sorry about that. But I'm not going to be answering a question that I've already made an entire video about. So sorry about that. Oh, and another one. Welcome, Matt Bond, as a channel member. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So, okay. Any other housekeeping items? Zinnia really, really missed me when I got back. I will say that. Let's see. I think that covers it. I think we can start diving into today's topic. Oh, yeah. I started to say Tyler started his position as our newest associate in the firm. So far, nothing but good things to say about him. So shout out. I know Tyler. Tyler watches my stuff. And welcome Michelle Cavarnos as a new member. Thank you for joining. Thank you. Tyler is a very unique individual. Don't tell him I said this, by the way. This is going to be between us, okay? Don't tell Tyler. He's been practicing law a little bit longer than I have, actually. He's been practicing law for about 10. This is his 11th year, 11 years. But he's been doing like immigration stuff on the federal level, stuff like that. But just keep this between us, like he's got potential. He's got potential, but he's got to unlock it first. He's got to unlock it. He wants to try cases like me. Like, no joke. This is literally what he said to me. He's like, I want to try cases and like be like you. And I'm like, okay, might be doable. Might be doable. I don't know. Lorianne, could somebody please, one of the mods, Mad Scientist or somebody else, if you could please share my email in the chat for this lovely individual that I may be able to assist at some point. Okay. Let's talk about the Moscow killer. Where we talk, is he from Russia? What is going on here? He went to Moscow to slaughter 4 fucking people. No, we're talking about Moscow, Idaho, not Moscow, Russia. What a fascinating case study. What an absolutely fascinating case study. Bryan Kohberger, thank you, Steven Severin, for joining on as a member as well. Welcome, welcome. I have no words. And I don't understand why people are so fascinated with him. Maybe because he's an anomaly. People kill other people every day, but usually 99.99% of the time there is motive. Gal cheats on her husband goes, kills the lover, gang shootings, various other motives, theft, drug deal gone wrong. All of those were just like, yeah, what do you expect? Not interesting. But the Kohberger murderer, where the whole country is like on the edge of their seat, like, oh my God, tell me more. Like, what's going on here? And I think because, you look for patterns as an individual like myself, of an analytical nature, of critical thinking nature. You want to, you don't just go, oh my God, this is a fascinating case. Let's see. The first question I started to ask myself is why? Why are people so fascinated with this killer versus all the other ones? And I think I found my answer. I actually found my answer today. And the answer comes in 2 parts. Part 1, the absence of motive, traditional motive, understandable motive, relatable motive, concrete, substantive motive. Because it seems that our protagonist, the killer, has absolutely no connection to the 4 victims in this case. 3 women, 1 male. 3 female, 1 male. And so the question arises, the fascination that people are having, because we're used to motive. We're used to understanding, like, all right, like I said, this murder makes sense. This murder makes sense. This one doesn't make any sense at all. And everybody's got their, what's going on over there? We're like dogs. Oh, this is fascinating. Murder. What did he do? Why did he do it? What did he? Give me more. Oh, a treat from the news. The news is going to talk about him one more. That's literally our entire fucking society right now. It's kind of appalling, but at the same time, it's understandable. Because that is how, it's something to gossip about. This is what we are attracted to. That's why Hollywood makes all of its money. That's where movies make all their money, celebrity gossip and all of that. It's all related. It's all related. And this murder he has become a celebrity overnight. I guarantee that his first and last name being Googled over the last couple of weeks probably has topped off a lot of relatable news stories, such as celebrity deaths and so on. This is live, Sniffs. This is not, I don't really usually do pre-recorded shows, for the record. So welcome to the channel. I don't think I've seen you before, Sniffs. So yeah, that's answer to question number one. Well, part A, I should say, to question number one, which is why is everyone so fascinated with this case at this juncture? And that is because it's an anomaly. There's no motive. The victims and the murderer are unrelated at all. The word on the street is that nobody even knew who he is of the victims. The victims didn't know Bryan at all. And so that raises a host of other questions. But before we get there, part two of why is the whole country fascinated with this case so much is something you may not be aware of, but this, not type, but maybe you can call it type. What I think Bryan was trying to achieve was, quote unquote, the perfect murder. And as always, these fuckers get caught. And so did he. He got caught. So he did not commit the perfect murder. Let's just lay it out on the table right now. He thought he was going to commit the perfect murder. He failed, and therefore the perfect murder has not been committed. It will never happen. Don't try it at home, kids. You will always fail. This is not a challenge. This is not a call to action, okay? The problem with these quote unquote attempts is, for example, I don't know if you all are familiar with the story of these two gentlemen, Leopold and Loeb, and I tweeted about this a few moments ago. Leopold and Loeb tried to do the exact same thing almost exactly 100 years ago. There were some two rich kids from the suburbs of Chicago being educated in, I believe, not Yale, the other one, and not Stanford, because I don't consider that an Ivy League school anymore, especially Michelle Dauber. You can thank her for that. I forget which school they went to. Harvard. And they, yeah, thank you, Elusive Red. She beat me to it. They tried to do the exact same thing. They tried to commit what's known as the perfect murder. And what did they do? Leopold and Loeb thought they were being crafty. They thought they were being crafty. This is 1924. Like I said, almost exact. It's like history repeating itself almost exactly 100 years later. They were in school. They were very much involved in philosophy. They read a lot of Friedrich Nietzsche. And if you remember, if you know anything about Nietzsche, first of all, he was a very, very dark individual, very dark philosopher. But he brought to the table one of his philosophical precepts that he laid out to the public was the concept of the Superman, the Übermensch in German, because he was German. And Friedrich was an idealist. He thought that there is the possibility of creating like a superhuman, like a Superman, not like Frankenstein's monster, you know, assembling them together in body parts and all that. But this is something to aspire to become like this perfect human, this Übermensch, right? It's a flawed philosophical theory, but it is a philosophical theory. And Leopold and Loeb, and their full names are Nathaniel Freudenthal Leopold Jr. and Richard Albert Loeb. They both, who are buddies, decided, you know what? I think we're smart enough if we prepare long enough and if we craft like the perfect victim, the perfect scene, the perfect murder weapon, the perfect I said victim, the perfect crime scene, the perfect scenario, and the perfect this and the perfect that, and the perfect dump the body there and the perfect getaway, we will never get caught. And we will thus complete the perfect murder. Well, guess what? Why is there a story about them? Why are their names known? Because they got caught. They got caught. And the way they got caught is actually really, really depressing. Why is it depressing? Because it could have been avoided in theory. They may have gotten caught in a different way, but they made it so freaking easy. One of them, I think it was Loeb. Don't quote me on this, but I think it was Richard Loeb. Richard Loeb was, he had vision problems. And he wore eyeglasses. Now, because he comes from a very rich family, his eyeglasses were crafted, were handmade, and they were crafted by a private jeweler, like glasses maker, whatever they call them these days. I don't remember what they call them. At the scene where they dumped the boys, well, let me tell you the story real quick. So they're driving around. They kidnap is a loose word as to what the perfect murder is. They kidnap their neighbor, a 14-year-old boy. And the 14-year-old boy knew them. He knew his killers. They knew the victim. That's why he got in the car in the first place. He didn't think anything was going to happen because he was like, hey, guys, how's it going? Little did he know he's about to be fucking butchered to death. So he got in the car. They drove around, took him to a certain place. I think they used a knife. I don't remember. The facts are irrelevant. But they killed the poor boy, dumped his body on the train tracks, and left. Well, Loeb, I think it is. Again, you can confirm or deny this. Lost his glasses. And the glasses were found near the body. When they found the boy's body, it was some farmer, some hunter, I believe, found the boy's body near the train tracks and reported to the police. Police came, searched the place, and they found the glasses. And from there, it was a very easy method of deduction because there were only 3 glasses makers in the whole state. Okay, really narrowed the search down, didn't it? So they went to every single one, figured out who custom ordered this particular pair, which brought them to one of the killers, and the rest is history. They started interrogating them. The boys confessed, and they got convicted. So there you go. The perfect murder attempt was thwarted, foiled. They were represented, by the way, for those of you who are history buffs, Clarence Darrow. Clarence Darrow, who in my opinion is number 1 in the criminal defense realm. We have Jerry Spence, who's number 1 in the civil defense realm. Those are the top 2 attorneys of the 20th century in my book, maybe some other people's books as well. Clarence Darrow has represented, the Scopes monkey trial. Remember the biologist from Tennessee, or the teacher from Tennessee who taught biology. That was him. Clarence Darrow represented a lot of very interesting and notable people, and one of them being this case. So he represented Leopold and Loeb, who were facing the death penalty, and Clarence Darrow successfully ends up getting them life imprisonment. It was life imprisonment plus 99 years, something like that. I read his closing argument. It is beautiful. It is absolutely beautiful. It is one of those appeals to emotion, trying to explain what the boys were thinking, why they did what they did, that the intent was missing. Even though it was premeditated, there was proof. They had notes of these kids taking notes, trying to figure out how to commit the perfect murder. What are we going to do? Where are we going to stash our murder weapons? Who's our victim? Where are we going to drive around? When are we going to it was 100% death penalty case. And Clarence Darrow, being the genius that he is, and his parents, the boys' parents, being able to afford such an attorney of high caliber in Chicago at the time, or I remember if it was in Chicago, but I think it was in Chicago. Yeah. Because that's where the boys lived. He brought the judge and the entire gallery to tears. Why? Because Clarence Darrow was able to convince the people and the judge, and I think rightfully so, that the boys were brainwashed. They've been reading too much philosophy. They've been reading too much Nietzsche. They've been reading too much like this understanding and theorizing about this concept of the Ubermensch. They lost touch with reality. They did a heinous act, no question about it. They deserve to be, sent to prison for the rest of their lives. One of them actually ends up getting shanked while in prison. The other gets out and dies of like old age, I believe, in the 70s or 80s. So he appeals to the judge's emotion, and he brings the judge to tears. He makes the judge cry. This is 1925 or 6. So Clarence Darrow gets the boys off of, they don't get the chair, they don't get hung, they go to life in prison. Now it brings us to our protagonist here, Mr. Bryan. Now he's a different type of case study. He's not comparable to Leopold and Loeb. He is not trying to be an evil genius in a sense he is. But his background is vastly different. He is not going to an Ivy League school, although he is studying criminology and is studying for his Ph.D. So he's definitely not a stupid man. But he suffers from something which I actually didn't even know existed. It's basically like static vision or something like that. See, Coffee Cake is on the other side. She's like, with all due respect, can he get his due process first before we put the needle in his arm? I agree. I agree. We have to give him his due process. And that's exactly the question that we're answering, Schumann. There are so many sick people outside who have or will do a crime like that, and then just hope the right person was arrested. Well, that's exactly what we're trying to figure out. So, Idaho murder suspect felt no emotion and little remorse as a teen. Messages and online posts from the Ph.D. student. See, he was a doctorate candidate. So he's definitely not just some guy off the street, There has been word as well that he conducted a study, a questionnaire of people. This is why I'm connecting him to Leopold and Loeb and the attempt to commit the perfect murder, because in the questionnaire that he posted, he asked questions like, have you committed a crime in the past? And like, if the answer is yes, you go on to the next question. And like, how did you get away with it? Did you get caught? Like, what was going through your mind? What was your method of escape? What was your da-da-da-da-da? Like, he turned his own fucking degree into a weapon that he later used to commit this murder, or these murders. Hey, Bobby Cat, she says, hello, Larry. Hope you and everything in the chat. Hope you and everyone, in the chat is having a great day. Thank you so much. Welcome, welcome. I'm totally goofing off at work watching YouTube. It's like 5 o'clock. What are you still doing at work? Unless you're Mountain, Central, or Pacific time zone, I suppose. But, or maybe you're working third shift or second shift, whatever it may be. So that's why I'm connecting him, right? So he's not a stupid man. He's now charged with 4 murders, show that he was once detached and suicidal before he became fascinated with criminals' minds. So we're gonna dive a little deep into his mind here. This is the title of the video, and that's because that's what I intend to do. But and then we'll talk about the preliminary hearing and what that means and all that. So, Moscow, Idaho. I hope you all can see this. I'm going to try and make it as big as I can. There we go. A criminology PhD student charged with stabbing 4 University, Idaho students to death had written years ago of having suicidal thoughts. Okay, so this is not new. He has been experiencing this for a while. Thank you, Tracy. BD is doing great. I'm going to see her in about an hour here. Not being able to feel emotions and observing his own life as if it were a video game, saying he could do whatever I want with little remorse. So already we're getting a profile right out of the gate in the first paragraph. The description of his past is suicidal, unable to feel emotion, detachment from reality, and lack of empathy. Very, very dangerous characteristics. Kind of screams like Charles Manson in a way, doesn't it? If you really think about it, I can do whatever I want with little or no remorse. The newer revelations about the suspect, Bryan Kohberger, come from posts that he made on an online forum in which he discussed his mental health struggles, as well as from interviews with those who knew him and messages he sent to friends that were obtained by the New York Times. They paint a portrait of an anxious, isolated, and depressed teenager who turned to heroin use before eventually getting clean and becoming fascinated with studying criminal psychology, saying that he hoped to one day provide counseling to high-profile criminals. And maybe that was part of his objective, is I'm going to commit this perfect murder. That way I can literally get inside their heads. And if I get away with it, well, then one day I'm going to be counseling high-profile murderers, high-profile criminals, and I will have a frame of reference. Like, it is the most twisted way of fucking looking at things. But, you know, it may not be further from the truth. It may not be too far from the truth. So that's our first introduction to him. Now let's dive a little bit deeper. Thank you, Jen Grimspring. Great to catch part of a live. Thank you, Larry. You're welcome. You're welcome. Happy Friday. Happy Friday the 13th, everybody. To me, it's just another day, and it's a holiday. Every day is a holiday. I feel this is Bryan. This is a quote from him 22 years ago, or excuse me, 12 years ago. I feel like an organic sack of meat with no self-worth, he wrote in 2011 when he was 16. So he's 27, 28 today. Yeah, 28. So I guess his birthday might be in January. Or maybe, I don't know, 27, 28. When he was 16, adding later in the same post, now listen to these words. As I hug my family, I look into their faces. I see nothing. It is like I'm looking at a video game, but less. So probably was playing some video games. I don't know. But he's this detachment from reality, this ability of not being able to empathize with the real world. To him, and we'll get to why that was, to him, it's like this other ethereal realm. Like he's not really, it's almost like he's suffering from an existential crisis at 16 years old, right? Popcorn Planet. Hey, Steph the Alter Nerd, what's going on? How you doing? She says, Popcorn Planet represent. Booyah! Wait, are we getting rated? Oh shit! I was wondering what happened with that jump on viewers. Thank you so much, you guys. Holy shit! Hello. Intellectuals are dummies because they lose their egos, take over. All reality is lost. I rest my case. Hey, you might not be too far from the truth, Elizabeth. So welcome to everyone who is now joining us from Popcorn Planet. You came at the right time. Like we're breaking this shit down. You might want to go back and listen to my spiel that leads up to this later. But right now, here it is. I see nothing. I'm looking at a video game, but less. And now Mr. Kohberger, 28, is facing 4 murder charges, accused of sneaking into a home, which, by the way, he did not know who was in that home, shared by students just off the university campus in Moscow, Idaho, and stabbing 4 of them to the death with no motive, no reason, nothing, in the middle of the night. They didn't know him. He didn't know them. At the time of the killings, Mr. Kohberger was in the first semester of his Ph.D. program at Washington State University, a 15-minute drive from the crime scene. He has maintained his innocence through his lawyer, which is standard stuff, by the way. Don't think that he's like trying to escape justice or whatever. I mean, that may come later. But right now, pleading not guilty is literally standard procedure for 99.99% of cases. And on Thursday, he waived his right to a speedy preliminary hearing because I've learned recently in Idaho, you are entitled to a preliminary hearing within, I think, 14 or 15 days of your arrest. So they decided to waive, and that's just a normal move, more time for his lawyer to prepare. Standard stuff. The judge set a June date for the hearing when prosecutors will outline evidence in an attempt to prove they have probable cause to try him on the murder charges. So let's talk about this. This is the preliminary hearing stuff. This is very, very, very important. What is a preliminary hearing? So cases, felony cases, always start in district court. District court is the lower court level. Okay, that is like where all cases end up. Welcome, Joanne Hawley. Thank you. District court is where charges are brought. Now, his charges are felony charges, so they need to be in circuit court. And there are several ways to get there. Sometimes you can waive your preliminary hearing and just go straight to the grand jury. Sometimes you can be indicted by something known as an information. That's when the prosecutor basically just sends the charges over to circuit court. Sometimes you have to hold something known as a preliminary hearing. And the preliminary hearing is exactly what you think it is. That is the prosecution. They have the burden by preponderance of the evidence. The standard is extremely low. It's not even that. It's actually less than preponderance of the evidence. It's a probable cause standard, which is literally the lowest in the land. By probable cause, they have to show that the officers in this case had probable cause to arrest Bryan for the charges alleged in the first place. Now, we already know that this preliminary hearing is, first of all, it's scheduled 5 months in the future, which is already a red flag. Why is it being set so far out? It sounds like the police are not done with their investigation. They're still investigating. They're still trying to figure out what sort of ties they have between Bryan and the victims. That's what it smells like to me. Otherwise, they would set the preliminary hearing next week. The government has no interest in waiting. Usually, the defense wants to defer, delay, and demands extensions. The prosecution is usually like, let's do it tomorrow. I'm ready to go. Come on. What are we waiting for? The fact that it's being delayed 5 months, to me, makes me believe that the prosecution is not ready. They're missing pieces. They're missing facts. They're missing connections. They're missing ties between Bryan and the victims. And that's exactly what this hearing is meant to establish. The preliminary hearing is going to determine by a probable cause standard as to whether or not the police officers in this case, the government, had probable cause to arrest Bryan Kohberger for these murders. And it's going to last for God knows why, 4 to 5 days. I mean, that's like a little mini trial already. They have to prove their case by probable cause standard that they had enough to arrest him. Now, 99 out of 100 cases that go through the district court preliminary hearing stages in the United States of America, in all jurisdictions, probable cause will be found, either because the judge doesn't give a shit, doesn't listen, doesn't care, or the judges that do listen or care, still 99 out of 100 cases you will be going up to circuit court. That's just the nature of the beast. Very rarely is a case brought forward with absolutely no basis. The government tries to maintain, for the most part. Welcome, Jazz Rose, as a member. And Gamer Soldier 100 says, happy Friday the 13th, everyone. My lucky number. Hello to all. I love this channel. May everyone find peace in all their losses, in all of the losses we have seen this week. Yeah, of course, probably referring to Jeff Beck. May he rest in peace. If we may have a moment of silence. For Jeff Beck. So sad. So, yeah, a lot of weird stuff happening. But here is the bottom line. In this preliminary hearing, the prosecution has the burden by probable cause standard to show that there was enough probable cause to arrest Bryan Kohberger for the 4 alleged murders. If the government cannot present sufficient ties between Bryan and the murders, the judge has no choice but to find no probable cause, and he will be released. The chances of that happening are quite low. I imagine that this case will probably go to jury trial, but it was the defense that asked to delay the preliminary until June. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I'm just telling you based on the information that I have, what I believe. So if that's the case, excuse me, maybe it is the defense that needs all this extra time. Why was it granted, though? That's another question. The fact that it was granted was maybe because the prosecution was okay with it, which again bleeds back into the theory of the prosecution also needs this time to prepare because they still don't have enough. I don't know. There's a lot going on here. I'm probably not as fascinated with this case as the rest of the country, and that's just because I have things to do. So don't take offense to that. It's just I'm busy. The police have disclosed some of the evidence that led them to arrest Mr. Kohberger at his parents' home in the Pocono Mountains of Pennsylvania. By the way, I spent time at Pocono Pines in Pennsylvania back in like 2008, 2007. I was there. No, wait, I was 17. Yeah, 2008, I think. 2007, 2008. That's where I learned to snowboard. Saying that they had relied on a beautiful place, relied on DNA from a knife sheath left on a bed with two of the victims, cell phone records that suggest his phone had been in the area a dozen times before the murders occurred, and surveillance footage of a white Hyundai like the one Mr. Kohberger drove. So all circumstantial evidence about his presence there, with the exception of DNA evidence, which is kind of like the best circumstantial evidence you could find. But the authorities have not outlined any motive for the killings. Again, motive here is a big thing, as we discussed. Leaving families of the victims and acquaintances of the accused killer searching for answers. Kimberly Fine says, I wonder if he wanted to match Rader's notoriety. His professor is excellent, yet Rader is still teaching her. Maybe he wanted that same power dynamic. You are speaking a different language to me. I don't know who Rader is. Some professor, I imagine, teaching her. Who is he teaching? I have no. Oops, sorry. I don't understand what that comment means. So please clarify. Maybe chat knows. I don't. It's wild, said Jack Bayless, a Pennsylvania friend of Mr. Kohberger's, who is among those trying to understand how Mr. Kohberger came to be charged with such a heinous killing. Bryan himself would have been fascinated by it. That's a weird statement to make because Bryan is fascinated by it. You know, that's probably why he tried to do it. These are the victims. Futures just taken away, literally for no fucking reason other than nothing. In online posts by Mr. Kohberger. Now, this is where things get really dicey. Really dicey. Oh, the BTK. Oh, God. Fuck that guy. Jesus fucking Christ. Ugh. Yeah. Fuck that guy. Raider. He's a rodent, okay, in my book. I don't give a shit. This is where things get really dicey. In online posts by Mr. Kohberger, dating from when he was a teen, he berates himself and talks about feeling disconnected from society. You're going to see some very interesting patterns. Unable to find meaning in life, he describes an array of mental health challenges, including anxiety, depression, depersonalization, lack of emotion, and thereby empathy, and the constant thought of suicide. He was fascinated with the BTK killer, Navy vet, Heart for the Broken. Okay. Not surprised. That's what I heard about it, but I didn't really tie the dots very well. Okay, that makes sense. Not surprised at all. The words were posted on a forum website called Tapatalk, previously known as Youku, where Kohberger commiserated with other users while suffering from a little understood neurological condition called visual snow. Remember those old TVs where, like, when you change to a channel that is like disconnected right now or is not showing a show, and you'll get the visual snow? Imagine having that on your eyeballs everywhere you go. That is basically his day-to-day life, in which a person's vision is obscured by scattering dots, much like the static seen on an analog television. Mr. Kohberger did not use his name on the website, but the posts included a reference to his birthday. Again, a lot of circumstantial stuff here. In addition, the username on the account, XR, matches an email address for Bryan Kohberger that appeared in a 2009 leak of accounts from an online payment company. That account listed his location as Efford, Pennsylvania, the place where Mr. Kohberger grew up. Some of the posts also contained details that friends said matched their recollections of his behavior and struggles at the time. Friends have previously described Mr. Kohberger as having an intellectual bent, that's a typo, New York Times, but said that he occasionally turned cruel and angry. At Washington State, his peers said he ranked some people with a habit of over-explaining and sounded particularly condescending when he spoke to his female compatriots, his female classmates. So he's got a history of mansplaining, history of suicidal thoughts, visual snow, disconnection from reality, depression, anxiety. I mean, this is literally the cocktail of making a killer, if you really think about it. Suicidal thoughts. I mean, he's got nothing to lose. He's not long for this planet anyway. Might as well go out with a bang. You'll see more of that in a moment as I continue reading. Pay attention when I get to the part where he starts talking about himself, like looking at himself in the mirror and what he sees. Like that is depressing. You'll see what I mean when I get there. Or actually, I might already be there. The online posts from his teenage years provide a deeper insight into what appeared to be a dark period of his life. On the forum website, Mr. Kohberger wrote that he saw a sickly, tired, useless, and stupid man. Listen to these adjectives that he uses to describe himself. Useless, tired, sickly, stupid. These are like depressing words to describe yourself. Just depressing. He had no, I don't know if he didn't have enough parental influence in his life, or like familial influence or academic influence. I don't know. Where's all of this, you know? Oh, by the way, I didn't share what kind of shirt I'm wearing today. I'm wearing my Hendrix shirt because I figured it's fitting because I love Jimmy. Anyway, I know you can only see like the top of his hairline. I forgot to share that at the beginning. All along the watchtower. All right. When he looked at himself in the mirror and felt that he did not deserve to live. I mean, that is right there. Right there. Satan is his daddy. That's a little too kind, I think, Elizabeth. Satan is a good man. Have you met him? He's cool. He also lamented treating his father like dirt, even though he considered him a good man. So he's treated his father like shit, and he felt bad about it. Nothing I do is enjoyable, he wrote. I am blank. I have no opinion. I have no emotion. I have nothing. Can you relate? He was trying to find his people. Mr. Kohberger said that his absence of emotion began about the same time as his visual snow symptoms in September of 2009, and one friend recalled him constantly talking about his fuzzy vision. I know it was something that really bugged him, said Thomas Arntz, who was friends with Mr. Kohberger during high school until they had a falling out. He was basically to the point where he was neurotic about it. I mean, listen, I would be too. Fuck. Bryan's teacher met and wrote a book with on BTK. Okay. Thanks, Debbie. Dr. Francesca Puletta, a neurologist and researcher at King's College London, who specializes in visual snow, said said that so little is understood. God, New York Times, can you get your shit together? What is this? Said it is so little understood. Said that so little is understood about it that there is, like, I swear, how many more typos are you going to have, New York Times? Jesus. Said it is so little understood that there is debate among scientists over whether to call it a disease. But Dr. Puletta has worked with people who find the condition to be debilitating. And I think Bryan is probably not far from that. We still don't know what causes it, she said. We simply have to do more research. It's probably not common enough, and there's not enough money. No one has donated a sufficient sum for people to like start researching on it and trying to figure out what it is. When there's a disease that like very, very few people suffer from, there's sometimes not enough money to start doing research and trying to figure out how to fix it. So they just kind of ignore it. Like, we'll wait until more people suffer from it, then we might reconsider. It's really sad. It's really, really sad. Dr. Puletta said that the presence of visual snow is not a sign of mental illness, but noted that one research team found that people who have the syndrome also report a high incidence of psychiatric issues. I wonder why. Can you imagine walking around and all you see in every day is like this static, such as anxiety, depression, and depersonalization? Remember the analogy that Bryan made in one of his posts? Life is like a video game. Nothing I really do has consequences, because he is detached from reality. To us, reality is real. Like, you cut yourself, you're like, ow, that hurts, I'm bleeding. To someone like Bryan, maybe he cuts himself and he's like, oh, interesting. I wonder what else I can do, Very sad, very, very sad. Mr. Kohberger wrote that he had tried anti-migraine medication, visited a neurologist, and gone on a strict diet, one that avoided sugar and starch to try and resolve the vision problem. So he tried to fix it. He looked for ways to resolve. You have a problem? Try to fix it. He wouldn't eat any bread, and he would only eat certain fruits, Mr. Arntz recalled. It was very restrictive. But by 2012, it appeared that Mr. Kohberger was learning to live with the problem. He's like, all right, can't fix him, join him, right? Sounding more optimistic, he wrote on the forum that he had accepted his ailment and was coming to terms with it. Otherwise, he probably would have taken his own life around that time. He graduated from high school in 2013, but had also began to use heroin around that time. So those of you who are unfamiliar with what heroin does, and the only reason I know is because of my clients. I've never used heroin personally. The way some of my clients have described the feeling. So heroin is a, oh God, which drug category? It's basically a, the word escapes, literally, it's on the tip of my tongue. It's like people who run out of oxycodone. It's a depressant. People like who run out of oxycodone, heroin is like the poor man's prescriptionless oxycodone when you really think about it. It's an opioid. Exactly. Thank you. It's an opioid. Thank you, Don. And much like oxycodone and the same group of opioid depressant drugs, it slows down the heart rate. It slows down the nervous system. It's a CNS depressant, central nervous system depressant. The problem is, it is possible, to quit oxycodone if you really try very hard and you work on going through therapy, and eventually you can kind of break the ties. Heroin, not so much. A heroin user, once they use that drug once, is basically, remember how in school they taught us, at least I don't know, that's what they taught me. I don't know if they taught you this type of stuff when I was in school. You have one cigarette and you're addicted for life. That's how they tried to like dissuade us and discourage us from smoking. Well, we all learned that's complete bullshit, right? Very quick. You had your first cigarette and you're like, I'm not craving another one. You know, so they did the same with marijuana when I was a kid. They did the same with like a bunch of other drugs. Well, heroin is exactly that. Heroin is the classic class A narcotic, opioid, central nervous system depressant drug that you use one time and you're a life addict for life, forever. There is no recovery from heroin. There is no going through therapy. You always have the craving as long as you live. If you've heard a heroin addict talk, they will always talk about this, one day at a time. I'm just taking it one day at a time. And the reason for that, if you talk to any heroin addict, you will learn that they're always chasing that first high feeling. So before you've ever used heroin, okay, the body is like at an equilibrium. The first time you use heroin, you experience a euphoria that is absolutely unparalleled, unprecedented, nothing you have ever felt before. It is the greatest high of your life, period, the end. No amount of meth, we're talking about crystal, like crystal meth or I don't know. I can't think of any other, like cocaine, crack. None of those drugs ever compare and ever get you to that first time heroin use feeling. Okay. It is the penultimate experience. Any heroin user will tell you. And every subsequent use, the second time they use heroin, the third time they use heroin, the fourth time they use heroin, the fifth time they use heroin, every single person will tell you that it's not the same. It is like if the first time they used heroin was like a 99 out of 100 euphoria, the second time they use heroin is like a 96. They don't quite get there, but they're like, well, next time I use heroin, maybe I'll get to that 99, right? And then the next one is like 95, 94, 93. It actually begins to de-escalate because you will never get to that 99 again. It was only that first time, but they chase it. Any heroin addict will tell you they always chase that first time high feeling. And they never get there. That's heroin. So the fact that Bryan has a past using heroin, and by the way, why did he fall into heroin? Probably his depression. He felt completely helpless. Think about it. You experience no happiness, no love, no feeling, no empathy, no emotion of any kind. You walk through life like it's a video game, detached, disassociated, misunderstood, disinterested, everything, dis. Your entire life is a dis apostrophe. Dis life, literally. That's Bryan. You're going to turn to something to make life happy again, to make you feel alive, to make you feel something, anything, just make me feel. Heroin did the trick for a short while because heroin gave him that euphoric feeling. Now, he eventually ends up in rehab, which we'll get to. But Rich Pasqua, who graduated from high school a few years ahead of Mr. Kohberger, said that they used heroin together in 2013 and 2014, at a time when they both worked at a pizza shop called New York Pizza Girl in Effort, Pennsylvania. Pasqua, who is now 31, recalled that Mr. Kohberger was socially awkward, no surprise there, and did not appear to have many friends, frequently calling him and offering to share his marijuana. So he couldn't find like a way to connect with people. So he's like, hey man, I'll share some of my weed if you come over. I mean, it's really, really depressing. I'm not going to lie. Pasqua, who said he is now sober and working at a rehab center, recalled in one instance driving with Mr. Kohberger through the gated community where Mr. Kohberger's parents lived, trying to evade a private security guard. We would make it to the cul-de-sac and we'd see the orange lights and Bryan would be like, go this way, Mr. Pasqua recalled. He was like, we're going to get in so much trouble. So he was a thrill seeker. Mr. Pasqua and his wife, who was in Mr. Kohberger's year, remembered that Mr. Kohberger, so he sounds like he married his high school sweetheart, remembered that Mr. Kohberger had been heavier when he was in high school and was bullied over his weight. Mr. Kohberger wrote in an online forum in 2011 of having lost half his body weight, and Mr. Pasqua recalled teasing him on one occasion as well, telling Mr. Kohberger to walk to the private community's gates in the snow to get some heroin from him, only to not be there when he showed up. Eventually, Pascha said Kohberger's father would pick up the phone when he called, once saying that his son was on a top secret mission, which could only mean that he was in rehab. Years later, Mr. Kohberger appeared to be doing much better, studying psychology at DeSales University in Eastern Pennsylvania, and telling one friend that his drug problems were in the past. I only used when I was in deep suicidal state, Mr. Kohberger wrote in May 2018 to Mr. Bayless, with whom he had been friends since the 8th grade. I have since really learned a lot. Not a person alive could convince me to use it. Mr. Kohberger followed up later that day, telling Mr. Bayless that he had been off drugs for 2 years and telling him not to mention his drug use again. And now it's completely all public knowledge for the world to see, according to screenshots of their conversation on Facebook Messenger. He told by the way, this goes to show how your friends will turn on you as soon as the possibility of them gaining the limelight is, don't trust your friends. But basically, this is what that says. Hey, do you mind keeping this conversation private? Sure, until the New York Times comes to my doorstep, I promise. I will not share this with anybody. Yeah. He told Mr. Bayless at one point that he thought he had been depressed since he was 5 years old for so long that he had developed a weird sense of meaning. In one message from October 2018, Mr. Kohberger wrote that he was interested in studying criminals. He said he would like to be involved in capturing violent criminals, but it could be a difficult to get a job like that. I'm thinking more along the lines of dealing with high-profile offenders, like counseling, he wrote. Among the details that emerged in the police affidavit last week was that Mr. Kohberger had, last fall, applied for an internship with the police department in Pullman, Washington, where he was living while studying at Washington State, but officials declined to say whether or not he got it. So he may have even worked for a police department. We don't know. I guess we're going to find out as discovery continues. Thank you, Rian the Diva. Welcome to the channel. And also, Dark Strange Nico 17. Thank you. The University of Idaho victims, Madison Mogan 21, Kaylee Goncalves 21, Zana Kernodle 20, and Ethan Chapin 20, were killed after spending a typical Saturday night around town, with 2 of them going to a party and others going to a bar before returning home in the early morning hours. Investigators believe all 4 were killed shortly after 4 a.m. 2 more roommates. Now, this is where things get a little tricky. 2 more roommates were at home at the time of the attack, but were not hurt. Why? Was he targeting these individuals for any specific reason? I mean, it sounds like he was casing the home based on cell phone pings that they were able to determine later. So was he targeting those specific 4? Like, did he know that they were going to be? I don't know. It's so many questions. One told the police that she had heard crying and voices around 4 a.m., open her bedroom door to see a man wearing black clothing and a mask. Now, what type of mask? Like a COVID mask, or like a Halloween mask, or obviously not a Scream mask, because I think she would have said that, but walking by her toward the home's back door, according to the police affidavit, she locked herself in a room. Now, she caught a lot of flack. They were like, well, you could have done something. And all right, bitches, hindsight 2020, fucking leave her alone. Seriously. That's not her fault. I would probably do the exact same thing. I'd be like, oh my God, fuck, I'm not here. Because you don't know what the hell's going on, especially if it looks suspicious. Maybe I would call 911, but maybe she thought that he was one of their friends. He's a young kid, you know? This is like, there are probably people coming out in and out of that house on a regular basis. Just leave her alone. It is unclear what she did after that, but no one in the apartment called 911 until just before noon, probably when the bodies were discovered, I imagine. Shannon Gray, a lawyer for the family of Ms. Goncalves, said family members have been searching for information that might show a connection between the victims and their killer. No link has emerged so far. They didn't know him. So we're going to see how this case evolves. I got to get to dinner, you guys. I didn't realize the time. This took way longer than I anticipated. Don't forget to like this video, comment below, subscribe to the channel. Thank you all for joining me. Happy Friday. Enjoy your long weekend. I'm going to go snowboarding. I'm going to have some fun. Not tonight, But I will see you all in the next video, probably today or tomorrow, Sunday, Monday. I'm going to start streaming again. Bye, everybody.